Houston, you have a problem. Actually, let me amend that statement. Houston, we are your problem. Courtesy of Hilton Magic and your Iowa State Cyclones, there are no undefeated teams remaining in D1 men's college hoops. That game sparked a series of mayhem in the college hoops world between Tuesday and Wednesday that included number 1 ranked Purdue falling to Nebraska, number 3 ranked Kansas falling to Central Florida, number 5 ranked Tennessee falling to Mississippi State, number 4 UConn barely surviving a scare by Xavier, number 9 Oklahoma falling to TCU, number 11 Marquette falling to Butler, 13th ranked Memphis needing overtime to survive UTSA, number 18 ranked BYU losing in a ranked matchup to 14th ranked Baylor, and 17th ranked Colorado State losing to Boise State. Oh, and that's just in men's hoops. Women's hoops saw the 24th ranked West Virginia Mountaineers surrender a 19-point lead to Our Ladies in the Cardinal and Gold, who eventually ended up winning by 10, and 4th ranked Baylor losing by 21 points to an unranked Kansas squad. Every year it seems that there's 1 or 2 weeks that we deem upset week, and if this isn't a candidate for one of the best, most chaotic upset weeks of all time, I don't know what is. It's mayhem, and the pollsters are going to have no idea what to do with this. I'm all here for it. Today's Friday, January 12th. I'm Matt Menson, and this is the Cornfield Sports Pod.
I wonder what's going on at the Associated Press right now.
Dude, the journalists have to vote on this, or their heads got to be spinning. And the week ain't done yet. Those ballots don't get submitted until Sunday night. So there's still more damage that can be done. And you know what? I'm ready and waiting for it.
Sir.
Give it to me. Give me all the mayhem, all the chaos. Now before we get deeper into the weeds of college hoops, particularly our men's and women's games, we need to discuss some proper student section dancing real quick, because for some reason, the Purdue Boilermakers student section went viral because people thought it was fire that their student section danced our Juicy Wiggle dance to Sandstorm, but not putting any energy into it. Like, they look bored.
They look so bored, and like I don't see anything that makes them stand out.
No,
It's
like the one
the
thing.
videos...
One thing. There's a lot of places that do that dance to Sandstorm. Like, there's nothing special about that. The only thing that was special about that video was the lack of enthusiasm that Purdue had. That stood out a little bit.
Now the caption of the video said, like, "This is fire!"
It was definitively less fire.
Okay.
You could do it better. You play that song at Iowa State and tell us to dance to that exact same dance, we will do it better. We do what is essentially the same dance to Juicy Wiggle better. You won't find a dance in a student section that is more enthusiastic than the Juicy Wiggle. The only one that comes close is probably Swag Surfing if you go down to the Plains. That's probably the only one that comes close. But, I mean, Juicy Wiggle in Ames, Iowa, people go absolutely bananas over this. And we also learned in volleyball earlier in the year that for some reason that dance also works to shake it off. So
It does.
when they won't play Juicy Wiggle for us, we'll make it work to anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, before we get into hoops, the football coaching carousel is heating up. Now that Nick Saban has announced his retirement and will no longer be coaching at the University of Alabama. How do you fill shoes like that?
Alabama head coach Matt Campbell.
Don't even. Don't.
Ah.
No. We know they're not going to hire Campbell. They're only going to hire one of the biggest names out there, and Campbell has done just mediocre enough in the last couple of years to stay off the radar. Which
Easier
I
to
guess
say,
fine
so
by me
I'm
at the
happy.
moment. So
Yes, fine by me. Absolutely.
I'd rather keep the best coach that Iowa State's ever had. But yeah, there's a laundry list of potential names that could replace Saban, some of which have been more prominent than others. Dan Lanning has probably been the most common name that's been thrown around. It seems like coaches don't ever want to stay at Oregon for all that long, so maybe Dan Lanning comes back to the SEC. Before he was head coach at Oregon, he was Kirby Smart's defensive coordinator at Georgia. So he is on the Saban coaching tree. Lane Kiffin, also Saban coaching tree. He used to be an OC at Alabama before he got his job at Ole Miss. Mike Vrabel recently lost his job at the Tennessee Titans. Could he come back and coach college? We don't know. Kalen DeBoer just brought the Washington Huskies to a national title game, and he only has 3 losses his entire head coaching career or something like that. It's kind of absurd between JUCO, NAIA, Fresno State, and Washington. And he's got a few national championships from when he was coaching Sioux City. So, Steve Sarkisian, this one's getting thrown around a bit, to be honest. I don't find it believable. Texas is going to throw the bag at him to keep him. So, do you see any reason to not believe that one?
It's Texas. If they throw the bag, then is that even surprising?
No, Texas will go well out of their way to keep Steve Sarkisian in town. I don't think that they're going to let him go to Bama anytime soon. And then the other name that I find the most intriguing, particularly just because it would affect Iowa State the most, because it would be affecting who we play. And I don't think this is a particularly likely name to get hired, but Lance Leipold. What he's done with the Kansas program has been kind of crazy to turn a program that was a perpetual bottom feeder into a contender year in, year out. And they haven't been to a Big 12 championship game yet, but if they do in the next year or two, that's not going to surprise me at all. So, Lance Leipold, I think, could be an outside chance for that one. But with him not being on the Saban coaching tree, I think that is a hindrance to him. Got a little bit of stuff here for volleyball. Blake?
For volleyball, ISU grad Alexis Engelbrecht transfers back home to North Carolina after I believe you assumed that she was all done, with her volleyball career and such. You thought she was putting up the jersey.
No, that was Annie. That's Annie. She's done. She told me that herself.
Okay.
No, I assume that Alexis is gonna grad transfer somewhere.
Yeah.
She's smart. Of course, she wants to stay in school, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, she's going back to her home state in UNC. After giving Iowa State, 4 years, she gave all you could ask for out here at Iowa State. Was a fantastic defensive middle. Best of luck to her out at UNC.
Yes, absolutely.
Now let's get into the weeds of men's basketball. Yeah, loss at Oklahoma, not a great game, just generally. It was, we struggled to get any kind of momentum really in that game. For a large part, it's just kind of back and forth. And, you let Oklahoma go on a couple little runs here and there, and that ended up being the difference. I don't know. You got any further commentary on that game besides that?
Honestly, no. Just not one of our best games. For a conference opener on the road, after us not really being used to being on the road a whole lot, then I feel like that was one of the difference makers for our guys.
Yeah, I feel like you can call that game definitively mid.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Houston game, on the other hand, was precisely the opposite. It was an excellent team game where there wasn't necessarily any particular player that stood out, and I think there were moments from particular players that stood out. Hassan Ward had some wonderful jams. Bob Jones being 4 for 4 at the free throw line was absolutely amazing. And those 4 free throws, that's the margin of victory right there. From a guy who's, generally not the best at the free throw line, he came in when it counted, and goodness, Bob Jones, absolutely instrumental to that win. Milan Momcilovic, clutch jumper at the end, followed by 2 free throws to ice it. And then, Milan and Tame and Lipsy were the only players to reach double figures in this game. So it really goes to show, this was a team game.
Yeah. The ESPN announcers called Milan Momcilovic's shot near impossible.
From that angle, because more likely than not, you're going to hit
angle.
the side of the backboard. That's a very difficult angle to hit. The old Dirk fade. But go ahead.
They said this was no accident. Like, he can play. Like, they said he could play.
Milan's very talented. There's no doubt about that. He's one of the best freshmen in the country right now.
Yes.
His shooting form is beautiful.
Momentum. I got to point out the momentum. Like, in the first 6 minutes, like that just got Hilton on their feet. It was a sold out crowd, but with the snow and all, obviously a lot of people didn't show up. I mean, the upper deck was just not great, but it felt like a sold out crowd still, like with people just being that loud.
Yeah. Well, when you go off on that kind of run to start the game, when you get a big lead like that early on, that gets an underdog team believing. And it also gives them the cushion, and they needed that cushion to end up winning this game.
Did you just call our guys an underdog?
Well, when you're playing when you are unranked and you're playing the number 2 team in the nation, and Vegas declares you as the dog because you get a higher payout. If you're the underdog, then you're the underdog. The underdog is determined by dollars, so. I like the odds mentality, but the underdog is determined by dollars.
Yeah, but here's the Otzelberger quotes. Nobody's going to call us an underdog at Hilton Coliseum. I do love that. I do love that inspo. I love that motivation to his players.
So the thing is, though, sometimes I think being the underdog gives you that chip on your shoulder where you say, you know what, maybe we're the dog, but we shouldn't be. And I think that was one of those games where they just showed up and said, you know what, we're going to be the better team. They played team ball. This wasn't carried by any particular player's phenomenal night. This was team ball that went out there and did the job. By, different clutch moments from different players, all when it needed to happen. And, if we get into women's basketball here with that game against West Virginia, there's some similar storylines to that too. Now, Audie Crooks obviously played a very phenomenal game here.
Very much.
But I don't think that that's the storyline of that game. I think the storyline of the women's game against West Virginia is Kelsey Joens hitting that 3-pointer in the second half. Because even though that's the only points she scored in the entire game, after that the floodgates opened. It just took one domino to fall, and then the rest of it's a chain reaction. That got the team believing. Because before, when we were over from behind the arc through the entire first half, we put up a decent number of them, and we were just missing. Shots weren't falling. The team started to get a little bit down on themselves. And then once Kelsey hit that 3, the team started to believe again. And they got more enthused, they got more energetic. And that made a huge difference. It completely swung the momentum for that game.
Part of it may have been Bill Finley's halftime motivation, just striking again.
Oh, don't doubt Fenn's ability to adjust either on defense.
No, because like you said before, like so far in conference play, it's like the first halves haven't been the best, but Bill's ability to adjust during halftime is just phenomenal.
Yes, it really is. It's quite remarkable. And I mean, if you look at the end of that game, we ended that game on, it was like a 38-9 run or something like that.
Yeah.
It was just wild. And in the fourth quarter, I think it was a 13-2 run or something like that ended the game.
4 minutes into the third quarter, West Virginia's win probability was 97%.
Oh, I would hate to be the guy that was live betting on that for West Virginia.
No.
That would hurt. That would hurt very, very much to lose what should have been very easy money.
And I think whoever had to do that live vending probably had to take out another mortgage.
Well, no, because you only lose what you put in. You don't lose more than what you put in. But I mean,
But imagine,
you never know.
But imagine if he put in that much.
You never know. We'll see what Fenn orchestrates tomorrow. They got a game against fourth ranked Baylor, who just got their clocks cleaned earlier this week. So we'll see how Baylor comes into that game, with what kind of mentality they come in, because I think that they could either come in, with this "it's time to get back on track," absolutely prepped mentality, where they go in and they're shooting the lights out, or they could be shell-shocked from that last game and still be quite unsuccessful. And I'm not sure that there's going to be much in between on that. And we'll see what our team comes in with that, because, our team still being a whole bunch of freshmen, and, having come off a 19-point comeback to win by 10, do we come in from that a little bit overhyping ourselves? Or, do we come in from that saying, let's not get down 19 in the first place type of deal? The mentality going into this game for both teams is going to play a major factor in the outcome of the game. And we don't really know what the mentality of the teams going into this one is going to be. Any more to add to that one?
We did miss next game for men's basketball. OSU, so that'll happen tomorrow as well.
Yes, they're at Oklahoma State. They're in Gallagher-Iba Arena, correct? Or is that one at home?
I think it's at home. I think.
Okay, we get home doubleheader tomorrow. Because women are at home tomorrow. All right. Wrestling, we got a little bit of stuff to talk about. They outperformed at Arizona State. They did better than I predicted. Now, Arizona State did not wrestle all of their best guys, which affected the outcome of this some. We ended up winning 8 out of 10 bouts. We got some statement wins here. 141, 12th ranked Anthony Ecamendia tech-falled Cody Foote in the second period. 451 tech fall. 20th ranked Cody Chittum did defeat 4th ranked Ja'Cory Teamer in a decision. This is one of the ones that I said to look out for as a potential upset. David Carr tech falls Nico Ruiz in the third period. Will Feldkamp beat 29th ranked Tony Negrin in a decision. It's a ranked matchup barely, with Will being in the top 10 and Tony Negrin, being 29th ranked by some, not ranked in other places, And then the marquee matchup of the night was Younger Bastida and Colton Schultz, and Younger did win that one by decision. And then our only two losses on the night were at 133 and 149, where Julian Shablove beat Ethan Perryman in a major decision, and Caleb Larkin won by fall, pinning Zach Redding in only 48 seconds. So it was not a great showing for Zach Redding at Arizona State. And then we very, very much dominated our Big 12 opener at Cal Baptist. We won 9 out of 10 bouts in this one. Ethan Perryman was the only one to lose. He lost that one in decision, as you could have guessed by, Cal Baptist scoring 3 points. But yes, dominant Big 12 opener. It was a big day for bonus points with Cody Chittum, David Carr, Will Feldkamp, Younger Bastida, and Anthony Ecamendia all earning bonus points. They were all either tech falls or falls. David Carr and Will Feldkamp both won by fall. The other 3 were tech falls. And Younger Bastida improved his takedown ratio to 60-1. He's only been taken down once this entire season so far. And he's improving. He's proving himself to be one of the best heavyweights out there right now, which, you see third ranked and you're immediately going to think that he's one of the best. But, this is his first season at heavyweight. He's been wrestling at 197 the previous 2 years. And, it's great to see that this performance at heavyweight from Younger, because he's been putting on a clinic against everybody this year. And then that one, Iowa State just also completely owned the takedown battle, 30-5. Mm-hmm. And tonight they will be wrestling at home, Big 12 home opener against Utah Valley. Expect another solid victory for this one. Utah Valley is, generally speaking, not the most competitive squad.
No. Expect a solid victory for this, and unfortunately, a very bad crowd, because the duel got moved up to 5 p.m. Because right now it is snowing very badly.
Yeah, it's only a little blizzard outside right now.
It's a little blizzard.
Just a little blizzard.
Just a little bit.
Now, DOT, did you see DOT sent out a tweet this morning, said this is some of the worst conditions they've seen in a long time?
I haven't seen something like this in a while either. But
it's kind of wild. I think visibility outside my apartment right now is like maybe a quarter mile at most.
Yeah. Athletics did encourage everyone to watch on ESPN Plus, so that kind of gives me something to do because
ad revenue.
Ad revenue.
It's all about the ad revenue, guys. They made the blizzard. No conspiracy theories here.
No, I gotta go to the duel anyway, and I'm willing to walk. So
yeah, have fun with that. And then our next duel after Utah Valley, we will be wrestling at home against Pitt. This will be the second time this year that we have wrestled in a duel against Pitt. We beat them at the collegiate duels in Nashville earlier this year, 21-14, and throw in a home crowd advantage, and I think we win this one again. All right, Blake. There's a blizzard outside, and part of a blizzard is high-speed winds.
Oh boy.
Am I good at segues or what?
It works so well.
All right, give me some high-speed winds, Blake.
I do got a lot of gymnastics for you.
Fire away.
So gymnastics did lose their first meet of the season against number 27 Nebraska. But although a massive improvement over last year. So they did announce that it was the highest score to open the season in 20 years. So that just tells you that the Coach Creek hype is real. Because we gave Nebraska a run for their money, staying within 300 points of them. So, yeah. Last week was phenomenal. But tonight they'll face, again, number 27, this time Penn State, tonight on Big Ten Plus. They'll go to the Fisk meet on Monday the 15th and return to Hilton on the 19th against BYU. And they've shown that they'll find a way. Like they've got the groundworks and like they're just building on top of that. They've got the groundworks for years to come. Behind me, Swimmies, they'll be back after almost a month, and tomorrow they'll travel to UNI. Track and field, that's not track and field, but that's cross country. Track and field will travel to the Hawkeye Invitational. So, and ISU tennis, the Team Addies. ISU tennis duel in the desert will be this weekend. They'll face Arkansas, Kansas, and Clemson in a hidden duel format. So they'll be in California for that.
Can you explain to me what a hidden duel format is? I don't even know what that is.
I don't know, but they just said like hidden duel format.
So we'd have to have a tennis person explain that one to us, because I don't know. Tennis is not my thing.
We'll bring in the tennis head coach on the podcast.
That would be something to do. We need to get more guests on the podcast.
Yes, and featuring our guest as the head coach for tennis. Can you explain to us what a hidden duel format is?
Yeah, I want to have Coach Christie on the pod. That'd be awesome. Coach Christie for volleyball, especially like right before, at some point during or before or after the spring season, something like that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all listeners, don't let us forget that one. Tweet at us or something once we get to like April. All right, we got some NFL stuff to talk about. I don't want to get too much into the whole Bill Belichick thing. They hired their linebackers coach to replace him. That saga ended kind of quickly. Didn't make a whole lot of storylines. No big name hires out in New England. So let's move on to the games, to the playoffs. The Vikings lost to the Lions 30-20 last week, eliminated them from playoff contention. They're done. After all of the various check boxes that they would have needed to happen, if they had won that game, it became irrelevant because they lost. Chicago Bears lost at Green Bay 9-17. Didn't affect the Bears at all. It was completely meaningless for them. Now, Green Bay, on the other hand, that locked up their playoff spot, so they were actually playing for something. So they're going to be the 7th seed in the NFC, and they'll be playing at the Cowboys on Wild Card Weekend. So, Blake, is this the year that the Cowboys don't blow it?
Cowboys are going to find a way. Because I want that one video to stay alive of all their hopes of going to the Super Bowl.
It's just you've seen like the cycle chart on on Instagram or Twitter or whatever,
yes,
right?
I have.
It's the We Dem Boys, this is our year, and it just digresses from there. But there's some storyline to this game, and there's some storyline to a lot of the playoff games this year. But for this one in particular, Green Bay is playing against their former head coach, Mike McCarthy. McCarthy's been in Dallas for a while now. So, and this game's going to be at Sunday on 3:30 on Fox. So y'all will be able to watch it, good old over-the-air broadcast, the way the playoffs are supposed to be, hint, hint, NBC. We'll get to that one in a minute. But Blake, the line on this one is Dallas minus 7.5. To be honest, I don't think the Packers really are as good as they've been playing the last few weeks. I think it's a little bit fluky. They got a little bit hot, and I think that they're going to cool off. This Cowboys crowd is going to be one of the wildest we've seen in quite some time. This is the best Cowboys team This is the best Cowboys team we've seen in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Dallas wins, and I think they cover as well. I think Dallas wins this game by at least 10 points.
I think they'll win, but I don't think they'll cover. I mean, both teams have proven to be competitive over this past season. But Dallas really surprised me for once, this season especially. And the home crowd's going to be there. I don't think it'll be enough for them to actually cover. But I think they'll get a win out of this.
Good teams win, great teams cover, and this is the greatest Dallas team that I've seen in a very long time. So I think that Dallas is almost certainly going to end up covering this, but we'll see what ends up happening on Sunday when that actually happens. Let's go to the other team in the playoffs that we cover, the Kansas City Chiefs. They had the 3rd seed in the AFC locked up a couple weeks ago. They had their backups play against the Chargers. And the backups did just enough to win a game that had no effect on anything at all. If ever there's a meaningless game, that was a meaningless game. Seeding was already locked up. Chargers were eliminated. It didn't matter. But wild card weekend, the only game that was really affecting the Chiefs in Week 18, and this is going to determine wild card weekend, was Bills and Dolphins. Loser was going to end up playing the Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium in absolutely frigid weather. Had the Bills lost that game, that might have been an advantage for the Bills, honestly, because they deal with cold more often than the Chiefs do. But Miami certainly does not, and Miami lost that game against the Bills. So Miami, a warm weather team, has to come to Kansas City and play in what is expected to be one of the coldest NFL games of all time. And this, normally I say advantage Kansas City, but I'm throwing a question mark with that. Because is it so cold that there's just no advantage at all? Because that's a legitimate possibility, I think, too. Is that there becomes a point where even teams that are used to colder weather, you can't prepare for that cold. Yeah, now expect the ball to stay on the ground a lot because wide receivers are going to have frozen fingers and they're just going to struggle to catch the ball. This playing surface is going to be rock hard because it's going to be frozen. They play on natural dirt out at Arrowhead Stadium. They don't use a turf field out there. And with that, it might make this game a little bit more prone to injuries because that playing surface is going to be so hard. And wear down the winning
Couldn't
team.
imagine playing on that.
But no, and I mean what I'm kind of thinking is, that's going to wear down the team that has to play on this. And I think that has some implications going into the divisional round for whoever wins. You know, that's just a tough way to have to play, and that's a tough environment to have to come out of. Even if you're the Chiefs and you're the home team, when you gotta play in that kind of conditions, that exhausts you. That exhausts you as a team, having to deal with that. That wears down on your body. And having to go through the stresses of the harder ground and all of that. I think that whoever wins this game ends up losing in the divisional round, kind of regardless. So we'll see what ends up happening. And of course, as I'd alluded to a couple minutes ago, this game will be Saturday at 7 p.m. on Peacock, exclusively.
How is this even allowed? This game should never just be on Peacock.
Why the NFL is approving of this, I don't understand. This is the first game in memory that is not available through over-the-air broadcast.
And this is a playoff game.
Yes. It's the first playoff game in memory that's not available through over-the-air broadcast because even the ones that ESPN has acquired the rights to, they have played on ABC. So they're still available through over-the-air broadcast. And, Fox broadcasts theirs over-the-air, CBS broadcasts theirs over-the-air, and NBC has always broadcast theirs over-the-air on NBC. The streaming services have been irrelevant for this. And that's part of what helps the NFL be so big is because it's accessible to everybody, because everybody can get over-the-air broadcasting. Not everybody has, every streaming service out there.
And remember, what these streaming services were even made for, like movies and TV.
Right. And I mean, there's going to be a game at Hilton Coliseum tomorrow night. I'm not going to pay the $5 to sit at my apartment and watch the Chiefs game when, I could go to Hilton Coliseum and have a good time there and be part of a loud environment and cheer for the Cyclones. So, sorry, Peacock, you're not getting my money. You get enough of it during the summer when I want to watch Sunday morning baseball. You don't get to have it now. NBA. Let's go to topics that are slightly less aggravating than Peacock. The Timberwolves in the last week won at the Rockets, 122-95 dominant win versus the Rockets at the Target Center, before losing at the Mavericks, 115-108, winning at the Magic, 113-92, and then having an overtime loss at the Celtics, 127-120. Their dry spell in Boston continues. Blake, when was their last victory in Boston? Remind everybody.
Their last victory was March 2005.
It's been a little bit since they've won on the Celtics' home floor. Now, March 2005 was before my second birthday. That's how long ago this was.
And I could say the same because we're both formed in the same month.
Yep. Yeah. Outside of game results here, not much in the way of trade news from Minnesota, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. They don't have a lot of cap space, so they're likely not going to have any major trades happen. And then upcoming here, they're going to be at home versus the Trailblazers and the Clippers before they head to Little Caesars Arena and play the Detroit Pistons. Then they return home to the Target Center and play the Memphis Grizzlies. Blake, give us an update on the Milwaukee Bucks.
Go Bucks.
No.
All right, previous week, they lost to the Rockets and the Jazz. Giannis Antetokounmpo 48 points against the Rockets, despite that. Also for the Jazz, despite his triple double. I mean, he's working hard, but apparently the rest of the team isn't. I don't know.
It's the lack of defense. The Bucks have struggled on defense since they traded away Jrue Holiday.
No. And then they had a very good win against the Celtics because they had a dominant first half there, and the Bucks were beating them so bad that NBA on TNT cut to the Knicks versus Mavericks game on Bally Sports while the Bucks game was still going.
I'm a little curious to see how the rights work for that, but
Same.
that's I'm not even gonna bother with that right now.
Well, they market it as like oh around the NBA, and like it was
They
just
just
going on.
go to the stream and they just keep it on.
No, but like this like the Bucks score was like just on the top right corner, and like streaming's done this before, like with the 49ers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when Brock Purdy was playing, and then they just switched to another game. It was still on Fox, but they just switched to a
Right,
whole
but
different
it's
game.
one thing when you switch to another game that you own the broadcast rights for. It's different when you switch to a game that you don't even own the broadcast rights for. So I don't know what kind of, backroom negotiation happened or whatever to make that one happen.
Nah, me neither.
But where you just end up with switching to Bally Sports mid-game on TNT. Because and I know that there's some other stuff that happens with Bally Sports, and other RSNs, but that's pre-negotiated stuff. Like I know, like when Missouri Valley Conference basketball games are played on NBC Sports Chicago, that's a rebroadcast of Bally Sports Midwest. But that's a previously negotiated type of deal. You don't just see them up and decide to play something on a different RSN on their own channel. That's a little bit of a weird one, but nonetheless, that is what happened. So,
but after that, they got upcoming games. It's against the Warriors and the Kings at home, and then they'll travel to Cleveland for the Cavaliers.
And of course, my beloved Bulls have had an excellent last week, if not a little bit stressful. Stressful but good. They got the win at home against the Hornets, 104-91, before they had 2 overtime wins in a row. The first one being at Charlotte, 119-112 was the final score of that one, and then win at home in the United Center against the Houston Rockets, 124-119. And it's good to see Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic both back in action at the same time. But it might not be too long, and we'll see what ends up happening. We might not have Zach LaVine in Chicago all that much longer if some of these trade rumors end up being true. Because right now it looks like one of the likely trade options is with Golden State for Zach LaVine. Warriors are looking to add a number 2 scorer behind Steph Curry. And some of these Warriors players that are available for a trade, it looks like Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kuminga, or the one that interests me the most is Chris Paul, even though he's aging a little bit now. But he is an all-star. And then obviously the Bulls trade possibilities. Zach LaVine's the top of that list, and then also DeMar DeRozan. And then if a trade doesn't end up materializing between the Warriors and the Bulls, it might end up being because the Warriors are also interested in the Toronto Raptors' Pascal Siakam. So we'll see what ends up happening there. For the Bulls upcoming here, they're going to host the Warriors at the United Center before they have a road trip to San Antonio to play the Spurs, and then they will head to Cleveland playing the Cavaliers, and then they will play at the Raptors in a national broadcast game on TNT. All right. It's cold outside. Let's hit the ice. Hockey time.
Sure. Let's hit the ice. Start with the Wild as usual. Got previous week, they won against the Blue Jackets in overtime 4-3. Matt Boldy with 2 goals and an assist. Brock Faber with 3 assists.
Yeah,
Mar-
Marc-Andre Fleury. Marc-Andre Fleury had a good night in that one.
yeah.
And Marc-Andre Fleury is now um sec no, second or third, something like that, on the all-time wins list. He's had a good career.
He has.
Um, yeah, but yeah, 893 save percentage against the Blue Jackets.
Pretty good.
Yes, it was a
Uh,
pretty good showing.
Cole Sillinger with the hat trick too.
That was Columbus's only 3 points was Cole Sillinger hat trick. Before the Wild would eventually go on and win it in overtime.
Yeah.
All right, and then
And then
they got beat down by the Stars twice. You know what? You go ahead and talk about this.
oh boy. Matt Murray coming in strong for Dallas too. Uh, Fleury with 800% in saves. They just need defense.
And yeah, they definitely need defense
They
because
do.
when you think giving up 4 goals to nothing is bad, just wait for their next game.
The second game was 7-2.
Yep.
They are 11. They're 2-11 in points.
Yeah. No, you know your defense is bad when the other team hits the over on their own.
But yeah, back-to-back losses against the Stars. But like body recording a goal and assist.
Yeah. It was not a great game. That was the debut for former Iowa Wild goalie Jesper Wallstead, and not a great way to have your NHL debut.
Nah,
Not a good showing.
but he'll learn. He'll learn. Just give him some time.
Yeah, now it would help if Minnesota's defenseman would step up a little bit and give him a little bit more cover, but that is not the situation that he had to work with. So,
No.
Back-to-back blowout losses to the Stars. And upcoming, Blake.
Upcoming, they got games versus the Flyers, Coyotes, Islanders, and then they'll travel to the Lightning.
Chicago Blackhawks. It's been eventful for them this week because they had a mixture of wins and losses as opposed to just losses. So, I guess that's kind of chaotic for them. But they lost to the Devils 4-2 before beating the Calgary Flames 4-3. And then they lost to the Oilers and the Jets 2-1. Their offense has struggled this entire week. And it's not going to get any better because their only player now, Connor Bedard, is out 6 to 8 weeks after a jaw injury. So it's the outlook for the Chicago Blackhawks is not good. I mean, what do they do, Blake? Now, somehow they did win their game without Bedard. But
This is just one.
yeah.
Oh boy. Oh, wait.
Yeah, that win at the Flames was their first game without Bedard. Yeah. So, and then, now they did have a new goalie in the net. Dan Vladar. New goalie in the net. He earned them the W. And then after that, they had one goal in either game after that. Not able to get much in the way of offense going. Once again, I would say they lost the Battle of the Connors, but, Bedard didn't play against the Oilers. McDavid was the only Connor to show up in that one. And, McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, both scored goals for Edmonton. So that is, kind of the way Edmonton operates. It's, Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid, and they showed up and they scored. The Jets. The Jets are a good team this year. The Blackhawks lost to them. Mrazek had a 928 save rate, but the defense just let too many shots through. Because, if you're saving at 928%, that's you're going to win most games doing that. But, when you let that many shots through, there's only so much that your goaltender can do. So, that's how that one went. And upcoming in this next week, they're going to have homestands at the United Center against the Stars and the Sharks. See if they can beat the other most awful team in the league in the Sharks before they take a trip to Buffalo and play the Sabres. And then the St. Louis Blues in the last week here, they had a couple wins. They had a win at the Canes, 2-1 in a shootout. Nathan Walker had a regulation goal, and then Braden Shen had the winning shootout goal. And Jordan Bennington, save rate at .967 in this game. That's really, really good goaltending. You do not see that very often. And because you got to be allowing a lot of shots through to even get a number that high because he did allow a goal to get scored. Don't forget that. But yes, very, very strong goaltending to save at .967. Even though you're allowing a goal through, because when you're allowing that many shots, the shutout's almost impossible. The Panthers, the defense didn't show up at all. They lost that one 5-1. The Panthers are another tough team. Matthew Tkachuk, 3 goals for Florida. That's a hat trick. When someone's getting a hat trick and they're just on fire like that, generally you don't beat them unless you're the Minnesota Wild and beat Columbus in Columbus on a Cole Sillinger hat trick. But that's an outlier. And then they came back. They stormed back in their next game with some offense of their own, 5-2 against the New York Rangers. Kyrou, hat trick on the home ice. Bennington had another great game in the net at .952. And upcoming here, they're going to have home games at the Enterprise Center against the Bruins and Flyers before they travel to Washington and play the Capitals. And then, Blake, we finally got some off-season action in Major League Baseball. It has been quiet so far.
Yeah.
It's been real quiet so far. But
since we're going to be playing in a few months.
Yeah, well, some chips are going to start falling at some point. As we start getting into January and February, because spring training just starts in March here, so not a whole lot of time left for some of these free agents to get signed and some trades to happen. But the arbitration deadline is today, and the White Sox avoided arbitration with Dylan Cease. They signed him somewhere in the $8 million range. The Brewers avoided a lot of arbitration. They signed Corbin Burns to $15.6 million, shortstop Willie Adames to $12.25 million, and reliever Devin Williams for $7.2 million. And then the Cubs. The Cubs were active in the last couple days here. They signed Japanese pitcher Shota Imanaga to a 4-year, $53 million deal, and that effectively curtailed any rumors of Dylan Cease getting traded back to the Cubs from the White Sox. That was before Cease signed the arbitration agreement. Marcus Stroman is officially out of Chicago. He signed a 2-year, $37 million deal with the Yankees. He was a free agent. The Cubs, could have made a move to get him back, but they did not. And then the Cubs made a big prospect deal with the Dodgers. They're getting infielder Michael Busch, who is 6th among Dodgers prospects, and then they're also receiving Yency Almonte. Both of those players played a handful of games in the big leagues, and the Cubs, in order to get those, traded pitcher Jackson Ferris, who is 14th amongst their prospects, and they also traded single-A outfielder Zahir Hope to Los Angeles. Follow the Cornfield Sports Pod on Twitter. You can find Blake.
Find me at BlakeAttack1846.
Find me at the Menson Minute. Of course, follow the podcast itself at C Sports Pod. Hit that follow button on Spotify, the plus button on Apple, subscribe on YouTube and on Rumble.
This is Blake Peterson.
I'm Matt Menson. Our producer is Vinny Cataldo, and this has been the Cornfield Sports Pod.